Good morning, Christina.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
For those that don't know you, Christina Rordam with Florida Realty Investments.
Got it. That's me.
I got it this time. Yeah.
You had all the right words.
Just in the wrong order before.
That's okay.
You are a real estate agent. I wouldn't judge you for it.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about your career trajectory.
Sure. Well, I grew up in a real estate family. My mom was a realtor, so it's my running joke that I was child labor, which is probably an inappropriate joke these days, but it was true. I was folding newsletters, and we lived in Orange Tree and Dr. Phillips, and she would farm that whole area, and we would go to open houses, and I'd drive around with her while she wrote down numbers for FSBOs. I'd go with her to knock on doors. So that was sort of my childhood, and then as I got older, I was in retail management. My store was robbed. I'll just say my store was robbed. And, I got pepper sprayed. I ended up in the hospital, and I was like, this is not worth it for what they're paying. And God bless the people in retail, all my retail brothers and sisters. It's a hard job, and I love them to death. So after that, I was like, let me make a switch. And I just got into the family business. I started in new home sales. And this was kind of as the market had peaked and was starting to come down. So that was an interesting way to enter the market.
Sure.
A lot of people were leaving. I was getting into it. And I weathered that storm. I got into, as the REO business started to blow up, my neighbor was a major REO agent, and he needed to develop a team. He recruited me. I started working with him. And then eventually that kind of slowed, and I said, I really want to work for myself. And now I have really like a relationship-based business model. So referrals, repeat customers, kind of word of mouth. And it'll be 14 years in July.
Wow.
Yeah.
You seem like you're a little too young for having been in the industry that long.
I started when I was 15, and, they made some exceptions for me. They let me.
I like it.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
That's true.
So you got pepper sprayed into the industry. That's a unique story for sure.
Yeah.
How long was your mom still doing real estate?
Right now, she's she's kind of like semi-retired. I think she sits some new home communities. Like she'll kind of be sort of like almost like a temp, but for new homes.
Okay.
So she'll kind of watch the communities, open them up, register the people, give information. So she's kind of like low key. I mean, she went pretty hard for a long time. So now she's just kind of she loves new homes. So that's what she's doing right now.
And you've been always in Central Florida? Yeah.
I when I was in retail, I did live in Tampa for a few years. So I opened the Charlotte Russe out at the West Shore Mall, and I would travel all over the state and help our district manager open new stores and stuff like that. But so I lived in Tampa for a little bit, and then I came back. So when I started my real estate career, always here.
Very cool. Yeah. So you've seen the growth in Central Florida.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it's, I date myself, but we were one of the first houses when there were like 8 houses in Orange Tree. We were one of the first houses on Orange Tree Lane, when Dr. Phillips was like Orange Groves, and there wasn't any of this stuff. So it's really cool seeing everything before we had a basketball team, way before Orlando City. So yeah.
Having been in the industry for this long, you've obviously experienced a lot of the changes on it, which have been massive in this. When we look at 14 years, I think in realtor years is like 150 years of normal years. Not only because of the kind of like the running joke of the hours that we work and just how sometimes stressful the industry can be, but also because of the changes. I mean, you are from a time almost pre-internet, not quite, but it wasn't the primary driver of real estate sales or real estate shopping, to a time now where almost every single person begins their home search on a computer. What are some of those changes that you've been able to embrace the best, or that you enjoy the most?
Well, I'm trying to do more, and if anybody follows me like on Insta, I'm trying to do more with like the social. I've always, as social media started to kind of develop, I always sort of embraced it. Twitter's sort of, I like Twitter, but now it's a lot of people arguing, but I'm still on there. So social media, I think that's something that's always growing, and I try to do more with like the Instagram stories, and I'm really trying to do more with video. So slowly but surely, more video creation. I think that's something that's a big. I mean, everything's going video, right? Or like what we're doing right now, podcasting. So I think it's fun in that now. It's funny because when I was in new homes, somebody walked in and he's still a realtor. I'm still a realtor, and I was the new home salesperson. He was the realtor bringing his buyer in, and he had a phone, and it was a smartphone. And he was telling me about the smartphone, and I'm like, really? And I had my little BlackBerry, and it had a little ball that you could run. I was like, I'm fancy, and it was like slim. And anyways, so it has changed. And for me, I think that the cool thing is we're not just the gatekeepers. We're not the guardians of the information. And I know we talked about iBuyer. You and I have talked about iBuyers before, I think. But, the Open Door CEO was quoted as saying, oh, real estate agents are going to become more advisors. And like, we already are. That's really what the best of us already are. And that's why people come to us. So they trust us. You're hiring us for our experience and our expertise. So it's a lot more of us creating content, being the local expert, stuff that like an algorithm, a website can't do. They can't tell you, oh, okay, what's the best coffee shop in Winter Park? And, what is there to do? And, what's this neighborhood like? And those types of things. So I'm trying to lean more into the social, into just creating content that people want to see,
Yeah, I think to your point, for the longest time we were the gatekeepers, and unfortunately, some people in our industry saw that as an opportunity to be in a business that where you really didn't need to be an expert or specialized, because you were the gatekeeper. So if you wanted to come in, I had to let you in, and that's changed because the information is more available now. And a lot of times a consumer comes to us already knowing the neighborhood. They've seen an aerial shot. They know who lives behind it or what's behind that house. They have a lot more information. So now we've become more of, we share into the information that they're receiving, and we provide our value by saying, hey, in addition to this thing that you're looking in this website, here's all this other information in relationship to that house or to the neighborhood or to the market of that area that will be relevant to someone wanting to purchase or sell a home in that space. And
everything looks good on the internet. It's funny, I've had 2 incidences. Like I said, I work a lot on referrals. So I had one referral 2 weeks ago, and they were from over on the Space Coast. And they sent me a bunch of listings, and they kind of described what they wanted. And what they wanted really wasn't what they were showing me. And of course, everything looks great on the internet. All the photos are, retouched, and you want to put the listing in the best light. So, we want them to be professional and all of that. So everything they were sending me looked great, but it wasn't like matching what I knew they wanted to have. They wanted certain aspects in the community that, they weren't finding there, So I was able to identify that and show them something that looked in real life the way they wanted, they wanted something, well maintained. And like I said, everything looks good on the internet, but especially if they're from out of town, they really need somebody to be an expert.
And I think part of the problem is the internet searches are only as good as the data that's put behind them.
Right.
And so a lot of these searches, like one of the things that is always sort of a source of pain when people are looking from a different state has to relates to the HOA fees and the condo fees, because the way the MLS feeds push that information out into the the Zillows or the Realtor.coms or some of the other home websites, it doesn't pick up both of those segments. It only picks up the HOA. So a lot of times people are just like, oh, I want this one because it has a low HOA. It's like,
and then there's a massive HOA.
There is a massive condo fee that is in a separate line item in the MLS. But, it doesn't pick it up a lot of times with lakefront property. I've had it happen very recently where someone wanted a specific, like a west-facing lakefront property. And so when you looked in the MLS, it showed like there was nothing, but it was because the agent that inputted the listing didn't put that information in.
That's a good point. And I was talking to somebody about that as well, because it was like because I have 2 people from out of town recently, and it was something like that. Where I think what it was somebody wanted a turnkey short-term rental, and they were going to come down and use it, and then rent it out the rest of the time. And so in doing my searches, if I put turnkey in, I only got a couple of results. But in reality, there were many more turnkey properties, but they weren't necessarily input.
Yeah, the data's not there. It's just like with the school searches, right? Because that happens a lot too. I'll have people in my side of town that say, I want my kids to go to Olympia High or Windermere High, but only these 4 houses show up. Right. And then when we actually, I'll sit there and I'll draw the polygon on the map and just forget about all the data, just do the map, and now there's 40 properties available. So technology is certainly helping people get a lot of information, but it's still not as crisp as it would need to be for someone to rely on it 100% to find a home. And to your point of iBuyers, I think one of the things that people need to realize with iBuyers as well is they are representing their own interests. And so,
I'm laughing because I know this is it's like a hot button for me.
Yeah. So I think it should be a hot button for anybody that cares about what's going on in the industry and that pays attention. For fun, I sometimes just pull stats to see what's going on in the market. Yeah. When I pull stats and I see that there's been a few thousand properties sold through our MLS that have been owned by iBuyers, I get concerned because I'm not thinking about the 2,000 or whatever amount of people that have bought these properties. I'm thinking about the sellers that sold those properties to these iBuyers. Like how much of their equity did they give up? And oftentimes it makes sense for them to do it. So if you're buying a new construction home and you don't want to deal with listing it on your own or the time frame of what that looked like, and you're really you understand that you're getting hosed on the value, but that it makes sense so that you can sleep 8 hours at night. That's one thing. But it's a very different thing to send grandma a sheet that says, hey, this is some comps and your property's worth like 170 and this is why it's worth 170. And so we're offering you 170. And grandma looks at it and says, you know what? I heard about these guys. They're reputable. I hear them in the radio. I see them on TV. This all looks like it sort of makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and sell them my house. Little does grandma know that the comps that she's being shown are not relevant to her house because they might have been distressed properties, or they might have been fixer-uppers, or they might have been old, or whatever.
I don't even think, and like I said, I fully support it. I feel like people just need to look at all the options. I wouldn't necessarily, if you're interested in knowing what the iBuyer has to say, talk to them and talk to me. Don't just take my word for it, but certainly don't just take their word for it. Because like you said, it's an important note. It's like if I walked up to you and I was like, hey, I'm going to give you XYZ for your car. Well, you're going to do your homework. You might talk to somebody else. You're going to look it up. But yeah, and moreover, I don't even think that they get sent. They're just like, from my understanding, they just say, okay, we have a proprietary system. We partner with local real estate agents. That's how we determine your value. So, and I hear some people saying, some companies saying they provide market value. Everything that and I'm not saying that's not true. Everything that I've seen is people getting offered below market value. And then on top of that, they're charging, a percentage. Are we allowed to say what percentage they say they charge? It's on their website.
Well, oftentimes it ranges. So sometimes, and I've seen even from just one iBuyer say range between 6 and 7%, 7.5%. So it ranges, and they'll do different things whether the house is already listed or whether the house is not currently listed.
They can list with us and still
correct.
Get an offer.
So they do have a range of things. And again, I think I've said this in the past in the podcast, which is I don't have a problem with someone having a capitalist idea.
That's what it is.
And wanting to say, you know what, I want to buy some houses for $1 to sell them for $2. Like, I don't have a problem with that. The premise of that is absolutely valid. I think that where the issue starts becoming problematic to me is when I see some of the offers, because I've been in the position to examine some of these offers because people got an offer and then they wanted to get my opinion on it. And the offer says that I think it's fair market value is what they call it. And, it is fair to someone. I don't know to who, this fairness is a very subjective word. There's a sense of fairness is not the same to two people.
And that's the same thing. It's like, how do we really know? How do you really know what fair market value is if you have not allowed the market to weigh in? Because what's happening, like you said, it's a very capitalistic enterprise, which is fantastic. I support it because if anything, I think that I look more competitive. I always know I'm going to be able to get them more money than if they, just go straight to, that's my personal opinion. But yeah, you're eliminating the competition, in all sense. They're like, hi, I'm going to give you an offer sight unseen. And again, nothing wrong with it, but I just want people to know what the process is. Sight unseen offer. Oh, but by the way, we want a 15-day inspection period, and we're going to tell you right on the website we might ask for a price reduction, and we might ask you for repairs. So they've secured the offer, right? You're not going to put it under on the market because you've already got a contract, and then they can go back and backtrack and say, okay, well, now I'm going to look at it. Oh, by the way, I want $10,000 in additional. And then the fees that they're charging, when we charge fees, we're charging to market, we're earning, you know what I mean? We're marketing the property. We're doing advertising. We're managing the transaction. So I don't understand. That's new.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's definitely new, and and part of the problem with it again is just the deceitfulness of it all. Mm-hmm. Because when you're not in the market and you tell a homeowner, mm-hmm. Your house is worth X amount of dollars. And they take it a step farther. They say, if you sell with us with this expenses, we're going to end up at this net bottom line. And if you were to do it with a real estate agent, this is how much they would charge you. And that's where I'm like, whoa, now you're making some assumptions.
We can't say that. Because that's price. We don't have fixed pricing.
Right.
There is no price fixing.
Right. So they make
and I can't say standard real estate commission.
Right. And
because there is no such thing.
But they make that assumption and they send that to a consumer with a very neat packaging.
Oh, it's on their website. They have the side-by-sides.
Yeah.
And then they say, this is the standard real... But there is no standard real estate commission. So how is that whole thing?
Well, and then things that are like, they don't put anything on repairs on their side, but then they put
repairs on our side.
They put repairs on if you were to list with an agent, which my experience is just the opposite. My experience is if you list with an agent, the chances of repairs are a lot slimmer than they would be if you go with an iBuyer, because the experiences that I've seen on the reviews and from friends of mine that have gone through the process to a certain point and then put a stop to it is the repairs can be very expensive. What they ask for is not going to be a small repair. It's like, they have this very inflated cost to repair. So that's fun. We have that to deal with now. We have iBuyers.
Hey, I welcome it. I think you have the same attitude. I just feel like I always encourage people. I don't, and I know you're the same way. Well, yeah, and look at all the options. So don't take, even if it was like you and I competing for a listing, don't take Mario's word for it. Don't take my word for it. Talk to us both if you're interested in hearing what we both have to say. And same thing with the iBuyers. Just don't take, these corporations. And I see some of them marketing, we're your local real estate brokerage. Well, I mean, Walmart is also my local, real estate or local retail store, but it's also a corporation. I just want people to look at all the facts. You know what I mean? Just look at everything apples to apples. Yeah,
I think if and to your point, I think if you are given all the information and you analyze it and you decide that that's best for you, then kudos. I mean, then I'm glad it works out for you. But if you make a decision without looking at all the information, I think there's sort of shame on these companies that are sort of engaging in what I would personally consider sort of a predatory type behavior. And also people should have a little more knowledge. I mean, at this point, we know what large companies do, right? I know how we know how they're beholden to their boards, and we know how they like to maximize profits. So it should be no surprise to anybody that that's what they're in business for.
Right, my friend. I think Bobby Davidovitz.
Yeah.
So I was talking to him about this the other day, and he's like, it's like, well, the thing to consider is, okay, well, how is a for-profit company going to make money by buying your house? Right. What's one of the ways? One of the ways they buy it at a price where they can turn around because they're not holding it. So I agree. I mean, I say fair game. Game on, whatever. Look at all the facts.
Yeah, I mean, and I think here's where I find it to be beneficial to us is that if you're a real estate agent that's willing to put on the work and do and time and resources to educate the consumer. I don't think my customers are going to fall prey of this because they see me talking about it. and they hear and they see the articles that I share, and they hear, that's kind of the social media is the great equalizer.
Right.
I couldn't have done anything about this even just 10 years ago, because
Sure.
10 years ago, what would I have had to do? Send people newspaper clippings on their mail every other week? Like, I can't do that. But with social media, I can do that now. I can put out information. I can share articles, and the person that's interested in selling their house will certainly click on those. And I've actually gone as far as doing newspaper articles on the local newspaper where I'm like, hey, just talk to an agent. Like, not good or bad, just go talk to an agent. Get the opinion of your agent. It doesn't have to be me.
Right.
If you have an agent that you trust, call that guy.
Yeah.
So I think it does present an opportunity to assert yourself as the market expert, for sure.
Yeah, because like I was saying, the people from out of town, they a website is not going to. And then when you're dealing with somebody from a website or an iBuyer, do they have a license? If they have a license, do they have a license in the state of Florida? Because it's it's different in every state. I can't go to New York and practice real estate the same way that I would here. They have different ways of doing things. So yeah. It's all about just getting all the information.
Yeah, we're definitely an interesting time of change, and Orlando just happens to be the hotbed for everybody's lunch.
I know. Yeah.
Like, everybody comes and tests in Orlando.
We're the test market, baby.
We're the test market for everybody. I think that's a compliment, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it.
Well, it's going to be interesting, I think, because I feel like the market is softening, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think, right now we don't have the same income, average income as like San Francisco, New York. We're just not there yet, and that's okay. But I think it's softening. We're seeing more inventory come, but I feel like it's not all necessarily, turnkey type inventory. But I feel like it is going to soften. So as it softens, all these new business models, it's going to be interesting. And then, hopefully all of us will, if the market softens, will still be here, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and part of the problem with metrics right now, and why I've kind of stopped my obsession with metrics a little bit.
I didn't know you had one.
Yeah, I do. And so part of the reason why I've stopped it is, so specifically with the iBuyer situation, if they've sold, let's say, 1,500 homes last year, that means they've also purchased 1,500 homes. But those purchases are not inputted in the MLS because they're treated as a for sale by owner, meaning the iBuyer is approaching the seller directly, and this is an off MLS transaction. Yeah. So when we're looking at our MLS stats, we're not seeing those transactions. There's 1,500 sales that are missing from those transactions, which are real sellers that sold their homes. Yeah. And so those people likely bought a house. Right. So what it does is not only does it purposely depress the amount of sales that are taking place in the market by saying, again, just using it as an example, there's 1,500 less sales counted for in our MLS than there should have been. But there's also 1,500 buyers that are generally counted for that, that are move-up buyers that look like new buyers entering the market when they're not. So the stats are part of all of this. I think part of all of this is I think it skews the stats significantly to where it makes it more difficult to ascertain whether it's a seller's market or a buyer's market, whether there's some softness in the market. Because if you have 100 people in one zip code selling homes in a year for 10% under market value, that significantly changes what would be the stat of the list to sell price, right? So
and my whole thing is too, like, I wonder, I don't, for me personally, I'm not trying to, it concerns me. It's just something I think to watch. I wouldn't want any one corporation or any 2 or 3 corporations, if they own that many properties,
they can affect pricing.
Yeah, they're going to be able to, and I don't know that it's going to make things more affordable. I mean, no when profits are involved. Yeah.
And that's part of the thing in Orlando, right? Like, we are already, to your point, our affordability index is not the best right now because, wages haven't moved at the same rate. The house pricing has moved up over the last 10 years. I mean, the market was 10 years ago already. Yeah. So we've had 10 years of pretty much continuous appreciation, but wages haven't kept up with that, which, again, it brings us to sort of a point where the market softening just seems to be the only plausible, logical thing to happen at this point.
Yeah, I mean, agree. It's the growth, we've had so much of it, and it's great, and we're a destination that people want to be, right? We don't have snow, so it always cracks me up. Once in a while you'll get somebody from New York. Yeah, I want to come down there. I want to buy a house. I like 4 bedrooms. I like a pool. I like a spa. I like to be on about an acre of land. And I got $150,000 to spend.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know why you think it's going to be like fire sale down here. Everybody wants to be here. It's great weather year round. I mean that.
Yeah, because 10 years ago it was. So a lot of I think a lot of what happens is people, their uncle bought a house 8 years ago, and they did pay $150,000 for a pool home, somewhere in Davenport, South Claremont, or and you can't do that anymore. Like, I'm sorry, the ship sailed. You should have done it then. Like that's not around anymore.
Yeah.
You are also, I wanted to mention this because I think it's a great honor. You were the top 20 under 40 from Aura Young Professional Network.
Yes.
And it's, you have a lot of involvement with the YPN.
Yeah, so that's, I was named 20 under 40 in 2016. I'm in my jeans and t-shirt because YPN went out to, it's YPN Cares Day. So a lot of the young professional networks across the state of Florida went out and volunteered. We went to the Second Harvest Food Bank. But yeah, I won that honor in 2016, and now I chair the committee, and it's just fun. We've got great leadership. Our new CEO, Cliff Long, is fabulous, really energetic, really engaging. Jeff Fagan, our president, is great. The whole leadership team is fantastic. Everybody that's involved with the association it's just fun to be around, and it's helped me be a little bit better of an agent because I feel like I have my finger on the pulse of what's going on. Kind of keeping up to date on the latest changes, things coming down the pipeline that maybe haven't come into play yet. And it's nice to be able to help maybe recognize other people that could be 20 under 40, encourage them to be more involved, mentor people a little bit, just like give back to the community and stuff. I just like the people, it's fun. So believe it or not, it is fun.
Well, it's good that it's fun, but it also does important work for the community. Yeah. Which I think it's something that we need to be doing more of. And it's been sort of a theme of the last few podcasts that I've done. I've had a lot of people that are very much involved in giving back to the community. And I think that's something more important. And if we're going to be competing with each other, let's compete in that arena, right? Like, I think that's a good arena to compete in. Like, let's see who gives back the most or who has the most creative idea to give back. Thank you so much for doing this with me today. It's been a pleasure talking to you and getting to see your career and getting to know you. We'll definitely do this again because I think you're one of the people that, because of your background and how you started working as child labor into real estate, you have a wealth of experience, and we only tapped about a little bit of it. And I wanna get to know more of that for sure.
Thanks for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Of course. Thank you.